the president, and you can make calls at, let's see where his website is. It does not mention it here. But for times and places, you can contact the president, Joe Craig, at 295 West Interlachen Street in Lake Alfred. Phone number is 863-268-8063. And the U.S. Submarine Veterans meet in Bartow, 11 a.m. on the first Saturday at the Summerlin Academy on South Jackson Street. And Polk County Veterans Council meets the second Tuesday of the month at 5:30 at the Vet Center at 1370, that's 1370 Ariana Street in Lakeland. And those are the ones that I received information. One more. The Military Order of Purple Heart, the Lakeland Chapter 535, meets the first Mondays at 6 p.m. at the Azalea Park Independent Senior Living Facility at 1325 Grasslands Boulevard. And that takes care of meetings of military units. There are American Legion posts in Bartow, Florence Sevilla, Mulberry, and Bartow, I think I mentioned. There's an AMVETS Post 32 in Lakeland, and American Legion Post 8 in Winter Haven, and American Legion Post 72 in Mulberry. There's a VFW Post 2297 in Lakeland on South Central Avenue, and there's VFW Post 8002 that meets in Lakeland. They meet up on 9398 US 98 North in Lakeland. And that takes care of our notices. And one final note as far as the veterans. An update on Coach Kennedy. Coach Kennedy was with the Bremerton School District, attempted to stop the assistant football coach, Joe Kennedy, from praying a personal and quiet prayer at midfield at the football games. It fell afoul of the First Amendment. In response, the Marine veteran stood its constitutional and religious grounds and prayed last week. The Washington school went further than just a threatening letter. It summarily suspended the coach and ordered him to stay away from the football team at its practices and on the sidelines. This hostile move by the school has not gone unnoticed. In response, 47 members of the U.S. Congress immediately fired off a letter to the Superintendent Aaron Level and Principal John Pohm, admonishing the school for violating Coach Kennedy's rights to pray. So we'll keep informed as far as what goes on as far as that particular issue. And a couple of things here as far, the situation is just getting absolutely ridiculous. With some of the things that are going on, I just, ever since they started with this same-sex marriages and gay and lesbian rights, and it's just getting out of hand, folks. And I always said it before, It's only the start. It's going to get worse. Now you have an organization called Man Boys that feel that it's all right to have sex with children. You have another group that feels that they should be able to have more than one wife. So I'm telling you, this is just opening up a can of worms, and it is going to get worse. Because if these groups are saying they're being discriminated against, and they're gonna come in and say, well, you can't discriminate against them, then the next thing you know, you will have guys walking up and down the streets with goats and cows and everything else. Because once they've done away with laws on bestiality and sodomy, you're going to start to see a lot more of this, and it's happening already. Sometimes the government does certain things and they don't look at the overall picture. They just look at the immediate problem, and then when it gets out of hand, then they start to wonder what in Sam Hill is going on. We're starting to see that in a lot of our liberal colleges that have been going on because of discrimination and this and that. Well, I'm sorry, folks, but a lot of these liberal colleges and liberals want all these things, and now all of a sudden it starts to backfire, and now they don't know what to do. Well, you start with you're discriminating against this group or that. Let's face it, folks. No matter what group it is or who it is, always you're going to find someone who's being discriminated against. They try to eliminate that in school by, everybody gets a trophy for anything, for participation. Then they wonder why schools' academics are going down the tubes. Well, there's no initiative to strive to be the best, because whether you make it as number one or not, everybody gets the award, so no one's penalized. No one's makes an effort to do better because they're going to get something anyways. It's the same thing when you start these things with all these liberal groups out there. Well, you discriminate against this one, you discriminate against that one. Hey, everybody's going to be discriminated against. They discriminate against people who want to smoke. Now, we know they can't smoke in a lot of areas. So those that smoke complain while they're being discriminated against because they can't smoke. Police departments for years, you have to be a certain height. If you weren't a certain height, you couldn't be in a police department. If you were a female, if you were black, you were discriminated against. Well, folks, it's unfortunate, but there's discrimination everywhere. And making rules to change it. You may change the rules, but you're not going to change people's attitudes if they don't want to change. But I'm not going to get on my soapbox on that, but a couple of things I did want to cover to show you how this thing is. There was I'm not sure where it was. I believe it was down here in Seminole County. A 14-year-old girl got in trouble when she hugged a friend who was having a bad day. She put her arms around him to give him a hug, but that moment earned her a morning in detention, as well as a blemish on her formerly spotless disciplinary record. The district's code of conduct prohibits inappropriate or obscene acts, including unwelcome or inappropriate touching or any other physical act that is considered to be offensive, socially unacceptable, or not suitable for an educational setting. It's at each principal's discretion to determine what kind of touching is inappropriate. And according to WFTV in Orlando, hugging was banned altogether at Jackson Heights this year, in addition to holding hands, linking arms, and kissing. And then you wonder why no one gives a darn for anybody else. You know, sometimes people just need a little hug. It wasn't like they were doing something obscene. But that's what you're starting to see nowadays, you know. And if you think that's bad, let me tell you this. In Cincinnati, Ohio, a first grader attending Our Lady of the Lourdes Catholic School in Cincinnati, Ohio, was suspended for 3 days after he pretended to shoot an imaginary bow at a fellow student while he played Power Rangers. The 6-year-old's mother was called by the principal while she was at work. Unbelievable. A 6-year-old having a 3-day suspension because of an imaginary bow and arrow. But hey, that's the way things are nowadays. I mean, you know, you put educated people in charge, and they may be educated, but they have no common sense. An imaginary bow and arrow. Now, come on, folks. Even in other places, in other states, you think that's bad? Well, in recess, you can't play no more dodgeball or touch football or any of these things. I mean, you know, what is our society coming to? And to top it off, the reason I was on a little upset on some of these other things as far as same sex, well, I'll tell you what's happening. Here's a good example. The Office for Civil Rights in President Barack Obama's Department of Education has determined that a Chicago area high school must leave the choice to openly use the girls' locker room up to a 15-year-old student who has male genitalia but self-identifies as a girl. Under Title 9, the law prohibiting sex-based discrimination, the DOE Civil Rights Division has threatened to cut funding from the township if it doesn't allow the boy to use the girls' locker room. Okay, folks, I'm not going to say anything else on this. I mean, it tells you right there. It's crazy. This is what happens when you let these Washington stooges impose their liberal policy on small town schools. The entire transgender idea is focused on sexual anarchy. Natural man and woman biology is ignored, and people are told they can be whatever gender they desire on any particular day. Well, I guess that means tomorrow, if I feel like going into the ladies' room, I should be able to go into the ladies' room. Because tomorrow I may feel like I'm a girl. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how law enforcement is going to handle this. Sorry to say, folks, but it's only going to get worse. We have another one here where a daycare worker, the firing of 2 Texas daycare workers after they refused to call a girl a boy is shedding more light on the controversy of transgendered children. One day she wanted to be a girl, the next day she wanted to be a boy. This happened in Children's Lighthouse Learning Center located in Katy, Texas. Approximately 14,100 people located west of Houston. Houston, yeah. The homosexual parents of the 16-year-old child insisted that Lighthouse refer to the girls as a he and use the name John and treat her as a male.